Thank you very much. I am so far as I'm only the vice president of the European Youth Forum, but it's a really great pleasure for me and for the Youth Forum to be able to participate in a forum like this. We are an umbrella organization for 99 youth organizations in Europe, and LJP is one of our members. We're proud both to have LJP as a member organization and as a partner when we're working towards the EU and towards the Council of Europe. We are in total representing tens of millions of young people in Europe, and very many of them are facing the same challenges as you are these days. And before I go on to going through some examples and some ideas that have occurred around the world, I would like to extend a short invitation to all of you to participate through the Latvian Youth Council into a project that we're going to develop. One of our priorities for 2009 and 2010 is to establish a transnational project in Europe. It's going to be huge, large scale, 2 years, transnational, and it's going to involve youth from all over the continent in developing best practice of how to create jobs and how to make sure that young people get into the job market and to ensure decent jobs for young people. The National Youth Council of Latvia will receive more information about opportunities to participate in this. I hope that after this forum that you will share your ideas with us so that we can also learn and share with the rest of the youth in Europe. Okay, I was challenged. In the youth forum I normally work with the global cooperation with our partners in Asia and Africa and Latin America. And as you know, the financial crisis is not something that's only struck Europe, it's a global thing. I always meant that we have a lot to learn from our partners around the world, so that's why I'm going to share a couple of examples with you. They're not related to the financial crisis, but they show a little bit about what youth and the power of youth and youth organizations can do in times that are hard. So first I want to take you to Colombia and to Medellin, which is the second largest city in Colombia. I don't know how much you've heard about the country, but for quite a long time Colombia was the #1 country in the world when it comes to kidnappings. It was a horror of huge dimensions when it comes to killings, kidnappings, corruption, and for Medellin, the Medellin part, it was the world's biggest center for trade of cocaine. Can you imagine growing up in a city like this? Unless you became part of a gang that had armed battles in the streets with a high risk of dying, well, you could just be killed just because you didn't want to participate, and you could end up as an innocent civilian in the middle of these battles. So here we're talking real-time crisis for a huge, huge city. Something has happened in Colombia, and the mayor they have in Medellin, he took a firm grip. He chased out the cocaine dealers from the city. It's not the major industry of Medellin anymore. This was possible also because he invested in youth, and one of the initiatives that were supported from the Medellin local government is the Medellin Youth Network. The Medellin Youth Network believes in protecting the kids in the city from the armed gangs. So when the armed gangs are out recruiting and they don't do it nicely, they are there to protect. If a young boy knows that he's on the list, they will provide him with shelter. They will take him away, if necessary, to hide him for a while. They are organizing activities to show which are the peaceful ways of living in a city where there is no tradition for living in peace. They are making demonstration against, also against the army and the way the army operates in the country, so they're quite controversial. Their definition of revolution is to renovate and to invent and to create, and I think that is something we can take with us from in the forum today. And they always operate on a no violence basis. They say that promoting their network is dangerous. When they go out in the suburbs to recruit, they always face the fear that they will be beaten to death by the gangs that are still operating. But they still say this is rewarding because they get to create and they get to make something that is going to last in Medellin. They say that there are 1,000 excuses for starting a war, but that there are millions of reasons for peace. So, what can we learn from this? I'm not saying that you are from the same traumatized living conditions as the young people in Colombia or in Medellin. You have not been growing up with that much of war in the streets. You have a very strong peaceful tradition here. But I'm saying that in times of crisis you must make sure that you take care of each other, that you seek peaceful solutions, and that you're strong, because together you will be strong. I want to take you to one of my other favorite countries, to Guatemala. After 36 years of civil war, there was finally a peace agreement in 1996. But a peace negotiation and a peace deal is not so much worth, and it's very, very fragile when no one trusts anyone, when the government doesn't trust anyone, the population doesn't trust the government nor the guerrilla. There are mass graves everywhere. You have whole cities with no men. Only women are left. All the men have been killed from one of the sides in the civil war. Rapes and killings have become part of everyday life. In addition, you're struggling with poverty. 12 families own everything in Guatemala. You have a huge agricultural production, and still 40% of the children are undernutritioned or malnutritioned. I have been living in a family in the countryside in Guatemala where the children went to bed hungry every single night, where only the oldest son was allowed to go to school, and where the family always were fearing that the police would come and steal the few things that they actually had. How do you deal with this? Well, there was a small youth group in a little village called Nimapa. They wanted to organize themselves. And this was during the Civil War. It was illegal to form organizations because, well, the government thought it could be the guerrilla. So there were no traditions for civil society in the country. So they started a little bit from zero. They sought cooperation with a youth organization in Norway called Rural Youth Norway, which is a member of the sister organization of LGP in Norway, and they managed to convince the Norwegians to work together in a 10-year cooperation. It included everything from the very basics: how to build an organization, how to ensure health, how to learn from the history, but also more advanced, how to establish your own business, for instance. The Norwegian government provided the project with 30 grants so that kids could go to school in this little village. The organization itself was given the trust to develop the guidelines for whom to receive these grants. And one of the first things that was agreed upon was that 20 of the 30 should go to girls, because girls are in less chance of getting education in Guatemala than boys, and in particular in the rural areas.